Hi everyone, I'm Pri from Elliott Scott. I'm here today with Diadra. Diadra is the Senior Director of Acquisition and Onboard at Dow Jones. And today I'm going to be asking Diadra a few questions about her career and ask her for a bit of advice to share with some young professionals out there. So Diadra, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Course. So Diadra, I guess first I'm eager to learn a little bit about, your first role out of college. Like, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I hate to think about how long ago that's actually been, but so my first role was more of a support role. I was actually a coordinator in recruiting very early on at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it was sort of my first taste in HR, and that's when I knew, just kind of working with people on a daily basis, that's what I wanted to do in the future.
Okay. And so how do you think that role kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a great question. So, my philosophy is like, do a few things that you don't want to do so that you can get to know what you really like and enjoy doing. And for me, just knowing that, just kind of sitting behind a desk and not really engaging and interacting with people, I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. So it was actually, my first experience really was in campus recruiting as a coordinator. So in campus, you're out, you're talking to people, you're getting to know them. It's never the same conversation. And so I knew that I wanted to make a difference somehow. So I wanted to engage in purposeful work. Obviously in campus recruiting, that's the first moment that someone's really kind of thinking about their career. So you having such a huge impact in that is really just a rewarding experience. So I knew that I wanted to kind of stay on that kind of path. I think over the years, as I was doing campus recruiting, I learned that, it can be exhausting, meeting hundreds of people a year. So I eventually navigated into experience hiring. And that's where I am now, where, I'm really more so developing and maintaining and nurturing relationships. Obviously, also coaching, providing some sort of guidance to make sure that, when I think about hiring, I'm not just meeting the needs of the business, but also obviously meeting the needs of the candidates.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And so I guess rewinding a little bit back even further. So when you were in college, like, how did you know that you even wanted to get into this field?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a people person. So I have a journalism degree.
Wow.
So way back when, I wanted to become a broadcast journalist, and I thought, yeah, that could be good. I knew it was going to be competitive. So because I kind of fell into HR, it was sort of an easy path for me, and it felt very natural. I always say tap into your strengths and what you're good at. I knew I was good at talking to people. I was good at keeping and developing relationships. So I figure, it was a win.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true. And so I know that a big part of your career, at least in the last few years, has been you've done a lot of work in DEI. And so I'm wondering, what kind of advice would you give to young professionals kind of wanting to start those initiatives in their organizations?
Yeah. So, when I started out in diversity and inclusion, it was just D and I and no E in the middle, right? We weren't really thinking about equity. And it was really more so focused on recruiting the talent. I think now kind of full range programs are more beneficial and seem to align more with the overall agenda for businesses. So, now when we think about diversity and inclusion, we think about, yes, attracting the talent, but we also think about sort of the experience, right? Whether it's through the hiring process or through onboarding. And for us, onboarding doesn't just stop like 3 months after you hire someone. It's more so of thinking long term, how can we ensure there's equity, whether it be pay, equity with career opportunities, so mobility and promotions, making sure that individuals, especially diverse individuals, have mentors and sponsors, because that's all critical components to the success of the diversity and inclusion programs. So I'd say, don't reach too high. Yes, you can set a vision, but also there are different tactical and programmatic tasks that you can achieve. I call them quick wins, where you're really just first getting the buy-in from your executive, your leadership, right? Because they're the people that are going to help you really implement and have the impact that you're looking for. So, I think right now we're in this heightened, sensitive environment where everyone is kind of energetic and rushing to do more. And it's not so much about doing more, but it's making sure that there is quality and definitely equity in the programs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe there's obviously a lot of things going on there. So it's almost like maybe choosing a nugget to focus on to start off with. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm all about the low effort, high impact task. Of course, there are going to be sort of big effort tasks as well. But I think, just thinking about all that we have going on, I mean, we're working remotely, right? It's a virtual environment. So for us, it's really been kind of focusing in on some of the low effort, because also when you have so much energy around an organization, you have, support, and you have IRGs or ERGs, and they want to get involved. So it's really being able to delegate that and really kind of form an advisory board within the D&I program to help the business kind of run.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, well, firstly, you started a new role recently in the last couple of months, it's really exciting and pretty amazing, given that we're in this crazy world of the pandemic and we're all virtual. And so, a lot of the time when I speak to young professionals, one of the struggles I know that a lot of people are having is just, not knowing how to build that trust and credibility when you can't be sitting next to your teams. How does your manager know what you're doing, and how do you, especially when you're starting a new role, how do you kind of show up in the same way? And so I know you must be going through that, like starting a new role. I'm curious to know what kind of advice you would give to people, regarding that, or just, how you've been dealing with it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me, I don't know, 6 months ago, if I would be starting a new job during a pandemic, I would have said you were crazy. There's no way I'm doing that. I think what's been interesting is now I can really empathize with candidates who are kind of embarking on that journey. I was on the hiring side, and now kind of being a new employee in this virtual environment, there has been, for me, it's been an eye-opening experience. The importance of communication has never been so critical, right? So, although we're not kind of in the room next to each other and we don't have those spontaneous moments to connect, I think what we're doing, or what at least I'm doing, is trying to make sure that those 30-minute meetings are productive, and we somehow kind of weave in some empathy and connect on a personal level as well. Because I think we're all kind of craving for that, human touch, and just those moments where we're able to really just get to know each other. My team, is pretty global. So I have someone sitting in Barcelona, someone who's in Mumbai right now, someone who just came over from London. So for us, I think we would have already been functioning in sort of this virtual capacity. Mm-hmm. And so as a newcomer, what I did was I set up vision sessions where we can actually whiteboard virtually. And I think, the feedback was really positive. It almost felt like we were in the room. We actually had music playing, and we were using Jamboard, which is Google Hangouts kind of version of whiteboarding. And it was great because we were able to share perspectives and really kind of block out time to just come together as a team. So there was some team building in there as well. And I think exercises like that are just really, instrumental in making sure that there is that connectivity and relationship building in corporate America, right? I mean, oftentimes you're in these like huge settings, and even if I was in the office, sometimes I wouldn't see people, right? Unless I went up like to use the restroom or something. So I think just intentional, purposeful, frequent meetings are kind of what we've been trying to at least adhere to.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a good point. Do you think that like looking back on your career, like, talking to your younger self, in your first or second role, do you think that your feedback or advice would have been quite similar, or do you think it's quite different now given the pandemic? Or, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. Just me personally, I have always been someone who's just been really just focused on communication and connectivity. And so this has been my philosophy all along, right? I'm like all about making sure that we are staying connected. And, if you get an email from me, it's typically pretty clear because I like to, make sure and kind of reread and make sure I'm covering all my bases. But I don't know. I think for my younger self, yeah, I would have said yes. Like, let's operate in this fashion. Like, I kind of grew up in an era where, we thought about like the year 2000, and like it just seemed like so far in the future, and like computers were like, oh my gosh, computers. But now that, this is kind of our way of working, I think, it's good for us in a sense. It really pushes us, it challenges us. And, I don't think we would have been so challenged. I mean, yes, there are good things about like not using technology. We mentioned disconnecting,
Yeah.
but I know for me, it's been really helpful because I'm able to reach people that I probably wouldn't be able to reach, or work with people that I wouldn't be able to work with. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I've been thinking kind of in terms of networking, because that's a big part of just being a person in developing in your career and networking. I think now it's almost easier to connect with people because they can fit it into a 30-minute call. I mean, I guess that's what we're doing now,
Yeah, there was no LinkedIn. I didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't
Yeah,
have Facebook.
exactly. Yeah, you're
So
right.
it's like,
I
yeah,
guess there's different challenges now, but there's definitely a lot that we can do with what we have currently.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you, Deirdre. That's been really enlightening, really interesting. It's so good to kind of learn a little bit more about you. I know we've met and spoken on the phone countless times, and now I feel like I know a little more about you, which is great. So thanks for
Yeah.
joining me.
Yeah, of course. You traveled along my journey. It's funny when I met you I was working at a different company, and now I'm at Dow Jones. So it's nice to kind of keep that momentum going. I'm very excited.
Definitely, yeah.